That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a quick reminder that Aaron and I will be speaking at the Mind Nexus Live Conference in Tucson, Arizona, September 27th through the 29th. And those tickets are available below in the description. The link is there. And if you use, Aaron and I both have our own promo codes, and those promo codes will be below in the description as well. And you could save $50 on your ticket if you use those. So take advantage of that deal. We hope to see you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And without wasting any more time, today we're excited to be joined by Dr. Semir Osmanagić. We've referenced his work many times in this podcast, and now we finally have a chance to actually interview him. So we're really excited about that. I recently met him in LA at the Alien Event Conference, and that's how this all happened. And for those who don't know, he is a Bosnian-American scientist, megalithic and pyramid sites researcher, internationally acclaimed speaker, and author of 18 books on ancient civilizations, among many other things. Welcome to the show, Sam. We're glad to have you here. And I believe you actually have 19 books now, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Actually, it is already 20. Well, thank you for having me on the show. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you.
Excited.
And
thank you.
You know, I know you've been talking about the Bosnian pyramids for years now, and we can touch on that today, but there's so many other things that you discuss in your books, and including your recent book. I believe you called it My Conversation with Artificial Intelligence. And I was made aware of this book while you spoke on the panel at the Alien Event Conference, and your insights impressed me and surprised me because I just knew you as the Bosnian pyramid guy, and you had all this knowledge about artificial intelligence and your experience with it. So maybe we could start there because you wrote the book. It was basically your conversation with ChatGPT about the Bosnian pyramids. What inspired you to write that book, and what did you take away from it?
You know, my first book decades ago was about the third technological revolution. You know, late 1980s, my chapters were about the computers, robots, artificial intelligence, biogenetics, lasers, superconductivity. At that time, almost nobody knew anything about it. And then 18 books that followed were about the ancient civilizations. My PhD is about the Mayan pyramids. I discovered the Bosnian pyramids. I have been investigating pyramids all around the planets, pyramids, megalithic sites on all 6 continents. And then my last book is about the artificial intelligence, which has become the reality. Of course, the first publicly available AI was ChatGPT 3.5. Now we have, of course, 4.0, we have Pro version. But I wanted to test that first version about the Bosnian pyramids. And I know a little bit about them because for 20 years I've been running this archaeological project. So I started with the questions about the geometry. The biggest pyramid in Bosnia, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, is a 4-sided pyramid with 4 triangular faces with the perfect orientation, corners, artificial concrete, and so on. So my first question was about the geometry. I said, well, I'm running the Bosnian Pyramid project. What can you tell me about this? And the ChatGPT, of course, filled with the databases from non-scientific Wikipedia, non-scientific Encyclopedia Britannica, non-scientific Smithsonian Institutes, and so on. They started telling me, well, this is pseudo-archaeological project. Majority of archaeologists and geologists are claiming that it is a geological phenomenon. I said, fine, fair enough. But tell me about the geometry. Are there more geological phenomena like this one around the world with the 4 triangular faces? Oh, yes, there are many of them. I said, for example, Mount Kailash in Western Tibet. It has perfect 4 triangular faces. I said, listen, I was in Western Tibet. I visited Mount Kailash. I even did Kailash Kora. This is when you walk around this holy mountain. And we don't have triangular faces. It is a natural mountain. And then AI said, well, yes, you're right. Sorry for the confusion. It does not have 4 triangular faces. I said, do you have any other example? Oh, yes, many. We have, for example, Mount Fuji in Japan. I said, well, listen, I was in Japan. I was looking at the Mount Fuji. This is the volcano, and it has it does not have 4 sides, but it is conical, roughly conical. Well, yes, you are right. It is a volcano. It does not have 4, triangular faces. Do you have any other examples? Well, yes, there is a Mount Matterhorn, and it does have 4 sides. I said, listen, I was there. This is in the Alps. It is between Italian and the border of the Switzerland. I was looking at it. It looks like a tooth, human tooth. It does not have 4 triangular faces. Well, yes, you are right. I said, so are there any more examples? Well, it's very hard to find in the nature mountain with the 4 sides, 4 triangular faces, 4 corners. I said, well, why did you tell me in the beginning that there are many geological phenomena like that one? So basically, he or she or it did not have any more examples. So I was going from geometry to side orientation. I said, listen, most of the pyramids in the world are oriented to the cosmic north. For example, 250 pyramids in the Chinese province of Shanxi, which I visited, north. I measured that. Indonesia, Gunung Padang, north. Cahokia pyramid in Cambodia, north. 155 pyramids in Egypt, not 118, like Wikipedia claimed. I researched 155, all oriented to the north. Peruvian, pyramids in the US, Cahokia, Mounds, they call them. So they're oriented to the north. The best orientation so far was the northern face of the Khufu or the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Orientation is error from the perfect north, 0 degrees and 3 minutes. And yes, indeed, the artificial intelligence confirmed there was information. Yes, I said this is a proof how the builders were advanced in Egypt, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right. Orientation of the northern face of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun has an error of 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and only 12 seconds. Oh, yeah, this is, great, but, majority of archaeologists and geologists dispute, its artificiality. They claim it's a natural. And so I've had like 20 different scientific arguments. Every time I mentioned them, they said, yeah, but, majority of scientists are claiming so. So, then I realized that the AI is actually not an objective observer, and it does not really have intelligence of its own, but it tells you what it is programmed to tell you. And since Wikipedia, not that one from the beginning, when it was People's Encyclopedia, but the one from today, which is highly controlled. I'm talking about 20 most delicate content. I'm not talking about 80% of the publicly known stuff. I'm talking about very delicate information like astronomy, NASA, history and archaeology of mysterious sites and so on. It is fully controlled. So then I realized, well, right now we have the same thing like geologists or traditional archaeologists and so on. However, when I asked about poems to be right about the Bosnian pyramids. For example, we have a triangle between top of the Sun Pyramid, Moon, and Dragon Pyramid in Bosnia. It gave me a poem in less than 4 seconds. I asked another one, and I realized that there is a, sense of creativity there. So if the first generation of AI can, complete the information so quick, the second generation, which should not be made by us humans, but by artificial intelligence, then it will start processing information their own way. Then we will see signs of the intelligence. And then in one of the scenarios, once they have so many information about our history, about our past, about humanity, about our violence, about tens of thousands of wars that we've been, running the last 8,000 years, about us distinguishing 50% of all, plants and animal life. I think the AI will conclude the biggest danger for this planet is actually the human. And if they decide to get rid of us, it will happen in a matter of few days. We won't be looking scenario like the Terminator. You remember when Schwarzenegger and the others, they are fighting humans and then humans fighting machines and robots and androids, and it lasts for years and years. They can wipe us off from the face of the planet in a matter of few days. So this book is kind of document of one time, it happened a year and a half ago. So on one hand, I was disappointed because I did not see intelligence, no objectivity, no neutral position. But on the other hand, I could sense that tough times for us humans are coming.
Right. I agree. And there's so many ways to look at artificial intelligence, and there's a lot of debates about what it actually is. What has it always been here before humans? Is it something that's, been traversing the universe and going from planet to planet, controlling, everything and creating the very matrix that we live in? So, there's many debates there, but that panel you were on, that discussion was an intelligent discussion, and I took a lot away from it. So you wrote that book in 2023, and you said you've also written about it in the early 80s. So it's always been on your radar. Now, going back to like the other pyramids, you mentioned that you've identified 6 pyramids in Bosnia, not just the 3.
Yes. In April of 2005, I first came to central Bosnian town of Visoko. I came to visit the local museum. But then what I saw in front of me was this huge, everybody called it natural hill. I was looking at the shape. Even though it was covered by soil, forest, vegetation, I could see 4 sides, 4 triangle faces. I was, driving around it. So the geometry was there. I took compass. Compass showed me perfect orientation to the cardinal points, east, west, north, south. So for me, there was no doubt. It was an artificial structure which has been covered by vegetation after thousands of years. And then, I established a non-profit, non-government foundation, and we started research. First, we were getting permissions to dig 1 meter, 3.5 feet below the soil. We were discovering huge rectangular blocks, which we've analyzed in 7 institutes for materials in Italy, France, Czech, Slovakia, Bosnia. Everybody told us it was an artificially made concrete of much better quality than what we can make today. So the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, the largest, is covered, in concrete. The height of the pyramid, we determined that using LiDAR technology, which has been used in archaeology in the last 10 years a lot. Guatemala, Indonesia, Cambodia, Peru, Mexico, Honduras, and so on. So basically, whenever you have a lot of vegetation, you have this plane flying over the pyramid site several times. They show the laser rays, which goes in between the trees and the branches and the leaves, hitting the ground. So once you have so many dots of the ground, you can get a pretty good idea of the shape and remove actually this greenery from the picture. So we know exact height of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Now, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, 147 meters. The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, 368, 2.5 times higher than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Now, that's one thing. The second thing, the orientation, as I said, much more precise than the Great Pyramid. The third thing, the best quality concrete. The fourth thing, the age. Today, in science, we use 3 different methods to determine the age. One is, which is most common, radiocarbon dating. Another one is luminescence analysis. The third one uranium-thorium analysis? Well, we have been applying all three. We've done 28 radiocarbon dating, and only 4 has been done for the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Why? Because all 4 have shown results more than 4,550 years. This is the time of the reign of the pharaoh Khufu. So they stopped because all their ideas that it was built during the pharaonic times was questionable. Then the most important mainstream megalithic sites is Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey. Well, Wikipedia claiming 11,600. Well, Dr. Klaus Schmidt, which I met 2 times, second time before he died, basically he told me there were 4 different dating, 10,000 BC or 12,000 before present or 13,600, which is the calibrated date. So it's 13,600. So it is Paleolithic times. But no, they don't want anything older than 12,000. So they are moving it to 11,600. And they did only 4 dating also. We've done 28. The result, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, based on the leaves discovered between 2 layers of concrete blocks, is 29,200 years, plus minus 400 years, radiocarbon, or calibrated date, 33,600 years. What are we going to do now? We need to change all the history books. So the history of humanity, of advanced societies, is not 6,500 years, Sumerians, as the Encyclopedia Britannica claims, but much, much older. So this is the Sun Pyramid. But then, like you said, we have discovered not 1, but 6 pyramids, which we named the Moon Pyramid, Dragon, Temple of Mother Earth, Love Pyramid, and the 6th Pyramid. Very important are the elements of sacred geometry. Ancients knew if they apply those elements, they're going to get movement of the energy. So which are those elements? Number 1, equilateral triangle. The same length of the sides, inner angles at 60 degrees. Well, guess what? When we connect the top of the Sun Pyramid in Bosnia, Moon, and Dragon, the distance between the tops, 2,180 meters, approximately 1.4 miles. Equilateral triangle. And then we have 2 Fibonacci spirals, golden section spirals. In Egypt, also 2 of them. And then we have another triangle within a triangle, top of the Moon Pyramid, top of the Love Pyramid, the entrance to the tunnels. So triangle after triangle, ancients were smart. They were applying those elements. And that's not all. Astronomical properties. Ancients were always looking at the sky, as above, so below. Now, we climbed the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun for the most important day of the year, and that would be the summer solstice, June 21st, the day when the daylight is the longest, when the sun rays are the strongest, and when our mother planet is the healthiest. On that particular day, we were watching the movement of the shadow of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. And just before the sunset, the shadow of the Sun Pyramid, of course, making a triangular shadow like a pyramid, next to the western slope of the Moon Pyramid. The top of the shadow exactly the same like the top of the Moon Pyramid, and the shadow touches the foundation of the Moon Pyramid, telling us the height of the Moon Pyramid, 190 meters. And then during the summer, hot days, nowadays, in August, the hottest days, the shadow completely covers the Moon Pyramid. And fall equinox, the third important day, the shadow is coming from the other side, left, which is in our case north, announcing fall and winter cold days coming. The shadow is on the left side. So now we could see that the ancients were really playing with the astronomical features, sacred geometry elements, and that's not all. You know, once we have proven that we have a pyramid complex, we have structures, the next question is, what is the purpose? Of course, visiting all the Egyptian pyramids, without the mummies in any one of them, I realized the pyramids were not built as tombs for the pharaohs. Where did they bury their pharaohs? Where they buried them in the Valley of Kings, Luxor, Karnak, Thebes, Memphis, Abydos, Dendera, not in the pyramid. The biggest hoax in the history. This is what they teach us in schools. So, but in our case, since we run the project, then we can do all kinds of measurements, analysis, dating. We've been bringing teams of physicists, electrical engineers, sound engineers, telecommunication engineers, medical doctors, people with the instruments. If you can measure, you can scientifically prove. And guess what? On the very top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, those teams at 5 different times with their own equipment, they measure the same energy phenomena. Which one? Energy beam, which is 13 feet in radius, 28 kilohertz frequency, electrical in nature. It goes up. It's continuous because we measure it in the spring, summer, fall, winter. We're doing measurements on the natural hills around, no energy beams. Only on the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, on the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon, on the top of the tumulus, which is a conical artificial structure nearby. Now, Mother Nature does not make hills with 4 sides, 4 triangular faces, 4 corners, perfect orientation, the best quality concrete, and placing it with other natural hills, in the ratio of the triangle of a perfect equilateral triangle, and making the energy beam like this one. You have to have, number one, artificial structure, but even more than that. The pyramids are actually energy amplifiers, and we are the first one in the world to scientifically prove that. What kind of energy the pyramid amplifies? Well, below the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, there is a huge iron plate. Iron. It generates electromagnetic field. The pyramid pulls this field up, getting it through a network of passageways. They're like a spiral, and then it's going to the top. How do we know that it amplifies the energy? Because we measure it at the base, at the top. At the top, the signal is 50 times strong.
Wow.
The next energy source, underground water flow, 65 feet below the pyramid. Water moves, kinetic energy. Water moves, it releases negative ions. Very beneficial to us. How do we know that pyramid amplifies negative ions? Because we measure it. We use instrument called air ion counter, made in the US. We have 2 of them, and in the tunnels below the pyramid, we have the highest concentration of negative ions in the world. The next element, below the pyramid, second water flow. Between 2, there is a charge, voltage, electricity. Pyramid pulls it up, it is going to the top of the pyramid, and this is the energy beam I was talking about, 28 kilohertz, electrical in nature. And finally, during the excavation, we have discovered a lot of quartz crystal on the pyramid walls and in the tunnels. What the quartz crystal does, it amplifies the energy, 1, and number 2, it transforms one form of the energy, in our case, electromagnetism, which we measure, to another one, through the process called piezoelectrical effect, to the ultrasound. So you see how that in scientific way, we have proven the real purpose of pyramid.
Right.
They are amplifiers, they are energy machines.
So I agree
Nailed it.
100% with all that. And thank you for doing all that research, because it's crucial. Like you said, it's happening with other pyramids around the world, but specifically in the tunnels underneath of the pyramid, have you noticed any physical effects to your body by spending time down there? Have people experienced any natural healings and things of that nature?
So now you are coming to the purpose of pyramid energy. The first one, energy beam, when we measure it with the drone going up, we realize that energy beam is getting stronger and stronger. In science, this phenomenon is called the scalar waves. Scalar waves were investigated by the genius mind of Nikola Tesla 125 years ago, and he concluded the same like Russian physicists in the last 50 years, that scalar waves travel quicker than the speed of light. Or to be more precise, information within the scalar fields travel quicker than the speed of light. So the first potential purpose of the pyramid energy, communication device. And the second one is just that one that you just asked me. We have cleared about 3.5 kilometers, more than 2 miles of the underground prehistorical tunnels. Matter of fact, we have discovered 7 entrances at different locations. You go into the tunnels. The first thing that you notice, you breathe so well. Deeper you go, you breathe better and better. Now, this is not very logical. Usually, if you go to the coal mine or the cave, deeper you go, you have trouble, with the oxygen, lack of oxygen. You have problems with, breathing. In our case, it's the opposite. It's anomaly, not normal. But, since nothing is normal in Bosnia, it doesn't really surprise me. People who have respiratory problems, let's say asthma, after a few times in the tunnels, 1 hour each, they go back, they don't need a pump, inhaler, no more. People with a high blood pressure, they come back from the tunnel, it gets normalized. You entering 180 over 120, you come back 120 over 80. People with a high glucose, high sugar in the blood, it drops significantly. People with the tumors, people with a very serious disease, after 10 days or 15 days, they show revolutionary change in their health. Now, we always like to say that we are not in the healing business. We don't give medical guarantees. But what we do, we measure. We use scientific instruments. And guess what? We have the combination of 10 energy phenomena. Very quickly, the first 5 is the absence of all harmful radiations. Now, all 3 of us live on the surface of the planet. We are exposed to the cosmic radiations. Some of them harmful, attacking our body, and our body cells fight those enemies. In the tunnels, 80 feet below the ground, no harmful cosmic radiations, no natural radioactivity. How do we know? We measure using Geiger-Miller counters. No geopathogenic radiations, no signal for the cell phone, 3G, 4G, 5G, no signal for the Wi-Fi, for the internet. Right now we are exposed to all those 5 bad radiations, so bad for our health. In the tunnels, without those radiations, our body cells can, for the first time in their life, start doing their job. What is their job? To fix the problems in our body, to start the regeneration process. And then these are the first 5 energy phenomena absent in the tunnels. The second 5, the best frequency of electromagnetic field, 28 kilohertz. The best frequency of the ultrasound, also 28 kilohertz. That's the levitation frequency. We feel light in the tunnels. Number 8, very high level of orgone energy. Number 9, extremely low frequency of 7.83 hertz. In science, it is called the original Schumann resonance. And number 10, high concentration of negative ions, which I just mentioned. So based on those 2 elements, when combined together, we are getting the safest and the healthiest place on the planet. So to answer your question, yes, we've been witnessing not few, not tens, dozens, but hundreds of healing testimonials every year of people visiting the tunnels under the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids. Logically, our conclusion, the second purpose of pyramid energy is to protect what is the most precious in our life, and that will be our health.
Well, let's book our trip today, Aaron.
Right.
Exactly.
So how...
I want to go. Yeah,
right.
Anyway.
And maybe we can discuss that later, because I would love to visit, but I have one more question about the use of the pyramids. So do you believe that the ancient sites and the pyramids were actually gateways to other worlds and dimensions, possibly as well? I think you mentioned that in your book, the world of the Maya.
Well, since we've done so much measurements on the top of the Sun Pyramid, now we know, number one, that this energy beam is very complex. It's not just electrical. It does have ultrasound and some other energy properties there. And secondly, we were thinking, what is the direction of this energy beam? The first thought was maybe it is like 90 degrees to the sky. It is not. Some, star system? No, because, our planet changes all the time. In the morning, the direction of this energy beam is to the east. And this is where the sun rises. Noontime, south. Afternoon, southwest. Evening, west. Does it mean that our planet communicates with our sun? It is possible. Is it possible that it uses the sun as the cosmic gate to communicate with other solar systems? It is possible also. But then the pyramids are not only the emitters, they act as the antennas. They receive the information. So information goes both ways. So I would say, answer to your question, did they use the pyramids as a maybe teleportation mean? It is possible, or at least when in the presence of the pyramid energy, it's much easier to achieve the state of, for example, astral projections. And once you can move anywhere on the planet, any space, and any time, you don't really need to go there physically. So it is very possible that it was one of the purposes of the pyramids. But some others that we have definitely proved. Water. The pyramid energy improves the molecular structure of the most important liquid in our life, and that is the water. We have discovered 5 tunnels with the water and compared them to our city water. Our city water, medical authorities are saying it is safe, you can drink it, there is no viruses, bacteria, fungi. Yes, that's correct. Why not? Because it has been treated by the chloride, which is a poison. In some countries like UK, they use fluoride, which is a poison also. Not only UK, but Republic of Ireland, Canada, 1/3 of the US, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. Now, fluoride, they're saying it's good for our teeth. Well, really, it causes some diseases here, but most importantly, it closes the pineal gland, which is our window from physical to spiritual dimension. And then in our city water, since it's going through metal pipes, it melts metal. So what we drink are the traces of heavy metals. And finally, to our kitchens, it comes through the plastic pipes. So we drink plastic also, which has become the main cause of the, cancers around the world. So the water that we drink, energetically dead, to state mildly. The water in the plastic bottles that we buy in supermarkets, even worse. What they do, they add some metals, especially aluminum, barium, and some others. Why do they do that? Why do they want us to get sick? Why do they want pharmaceutical industry to grow? I'm not discussing that. But
whole other topic.
the water in our tunnels, of course, it has not been treated. But still, no viruses, no bacteria, no fungi. Why? Because the negative ions, they are a barrier to all microbes. pH, excellent. pH 0 to 14, 7 is neutral, but our blood is not 7. Our blood is 7.35 to 7.45. The water from the tunnels, 7.45. Like somebody calibrated it to be energetically proper for our body. And most important, when we sent samples to late Dr. Masaru Emoto from Japan 10 years ago, he got our water samples frozen, And at minus 20 degrees Celsius, took a photo from an electronic microscope, and it has shown beautiful hexagonal structure. So this is structured water. We are what we drink. The water that we drink, energetically dead, does not help us. The water from the pyramids, energetically alive. We are what we eat. Guess what? We did experiment with the seeds of beans. One bag with the seeds we kept home, the control group. Another one we put in the tunnels, the third one on the top of the sun pyramid. And then we planted those seeds. The pyramid seeds were growing 3 times quicker, richer, healthier than the regular seeds. So the pyramid energy affects our food. It affects our immunity in a very positive way. Helps develop spiritual senses. So now we can see that the pyramid energy had been so important for the ancient builders. So they knew the secrets of the energy. What they teach us in schools is that the pyramids are tombs for the pharaohs. So they belong to the past. Somebody was buried there, that's it. Wrong. They were built for the living communities. And with the pyramid energy, we could affect so many aspects of our life. When I visited Dr. Vladimir Golod in Russia, in Moscow, about 20 years ago,
I was just thinking of him, of all the experiments he's done. Yeah.
Yes, he built 16 pyramids in Ukraine and Russia while they were the same country, 90s. And then near his dacha, his weekend house in Moscow, he built a big PVC, a pyramid, 21 by 21 meters, 42 meters high, about 130 feet high. And he placed 5 tons of kitchen salt for 1 month. And then he went to nearby prison. And he offered them to supply them with the salt. And he asked them, to put it in prisoners, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And after 3 months, he went there. He was talking to the, department chiefs. He asked them if there were any changes in prisoners' behavior. And he was told, yes, this is like we have a brand new prisoners. The violence level was reduced to 0. Now, that was a big prison, 6,000 prisoners. They always like to play with the knives, or the guns, choking, whatever. 0 violence level because of the pyramid salt. After a year, he went to renew the contract. They told him no. They didn't want to renew the contract. It is like the authorities want us to be violent so they can justify that they have big armies, big police force, big ministries, big inspections, big blah, blah, blah. Pyramid energy.
It's a threat to the system, huge threat to the system.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't know that about the salt. And it almost seems like the possibilities are endless with the pyramid energies. And Aaron, did you have anything to add to any of this before we move on?
Well, it's funny, right? As I was thinking about Alexander Golod, you just brought him up. And so we did a documentary last year on the Cahokia Mounds, which I think you mentioned earlier, and which are basically a type of pyramid, right? Those mounds, they're a type of pyramid, same exact thing going on there. So in the documentary, I actually talked about Alexander Golod and all of the science that he did on pyramids, and he proved he's doing exactly what you're doing. He's proving that the pyramids they're healing, they cause plants and things like that to grow more. They reduce violence, they reduce any kind of negative energy. They clean and purify water. They heal cancer and all kinds of diseases, like everything you can think of. It just it purifies and makes it better, essentially. And that's because it's a technology. And that's why you find pyramids on every continent of the planet. And they're very ancient because the ancients knew this and they used it. And they're also power generators as well, which you talked about. So, and probably for communication as well. So there's multiple uses for pyramids. And he proved this, at least he proved a lot of it with his science. And of course, that gets all, shoved away, and hardly anyone knows who the guy is and anything about this. And it gets demonized and it gets called pseudoscience and stuff because it's a huge threat to the system. And what you just said is a perfect example of that. Like, he proved that it reduced the violence to zero, and you'd think that'd be a great thing. They would want that. Nope. They don't want it because that's not what they want. That's not what the system wants.
And it doesn't help it doesn't help the prison industrial complex either.
Exactly.
They're literally using them to fund, like, to make money, basically. They need the prisoners for financial gain. But either way.
Right. Well, that just shows our current systems are based on these suppressing humanity, not for benefiting humanity. And this is something that greatly, greatly benefits and could free humanity.
Right.
And that's a huge threat to that system, the people who have vested interest in that system. And they're, until they're gone, until enough people wake up and stop supporting it,
Right.
But that's what's happening now. People are waking up.
On the island of Sicily in Mediterranean, there is a volcano called Etna, and 43 pyramids, stepped stone pyramids, were built around it.
That volcano's erupting right now, is it? Is it not?
Yes, it is, but slowly.
Right.
And we don't have a huge catastrophic eruption. And probably one of the reasons, the pyramids. The pyramids helps, to prevent the catastrophe. So instead of one huge eruption, you got series of smaller eruptions. And then I remember in 1990s, there were a lot of talks about the holes in the ozone layers. At that time, there were between New Zealand and Australia. And Dr. Gollard offered to those governments to build several pyramids to kind of patch this hole, to resolve the problem. And they rejected the offer. So it's amazing, what they do to us. Now, Cahokia mounds, as they call them, they're not mounds, they are pyramids. What is the difference between the mound and the pyramid? Mound is when you use dirt and you make something. For example, Ohio Serpent Mound. That is a mound because only mound was used to make that serpent-like structure. But the pyramids, they are constructions where you have different construction materials. In Cahokia National Park, which is in southwestern corner of the state of Illinois, we have remaining 120 pyramids. Mostly they are stepped pyramids. Like the biggest one, Monk's Mound is called, which is 11% larger surface than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. It is like two, layer pyramid. When I was there, I realized that instead of just the sword, they used shaped sandstone blocks, pebbles, rocks, sand, and when they completed the construction, they cut the squares of soil and the grass, turn it upside down, and cover the pyramid. This is a construction. In order to build just one structure, they needed an equivalent of 122,000 20-ton trucks, 122,000 trucks with the construction materials. So to build 120 and most possibly 200 pyramids at original times, they needed millions and millions and millions of tons of material. In 1970, the museum was built at the site. They spent $20 million of, tax money. 20 million. Today it's like 200 million. And the museum is filled with the half-naked Indians. They're telling us those Indians built this huge pyramid complex. Well, the Indians never built permanent structures like pyramids. They never did that. Of course, the white Europeans, when they started coming from England, from Ireland, from Poland, from Italy, they never built pyramids also. So who were the builders? Well, it would be logically to conclude, well, since they are so big, so important, now you're going to have all these archaeologists there during the work. Well, when I was there, no archaeological work whatsoever. So I talked to the archaeologist at the site. I asked him, okay, did you do any digging? Did you find any chambers, passageways, underground water flows? He said, no, we don't do anything. I said, why? Well, because, we cannot get permissions. I said, what are you talking about? This is, national park. It's a government property. These are government pyramids. You're a government employee. There is a government museum. So it should be the easiest thing to get the permission for the government archaeologists. And then he said, yes, but archaeology is very expensive. I said, listen to me. I live in Bosnia. That's the least developed European country. And we have the most active archaeological site in the world without the permission from the government because we finance ourselves through the tourism. So if little Bosnia can have such a huge archaeological project, which is history change, how come the superpower number one in the world cannot invest some money in the pyramid business? In Egypt.
I know the answer to that.
Yeah. In
They
Egypt.
don't want to.
Exactly. In Egypt, 15.5 million tourists last year. They brought $20 billion to Egyptian economy. Now imagine this pyramid is even larger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. I mean, you would expect to have a new Las Vegas there. But no, this is very delicate. This is changing the history. They don't want to do that. And the matter of fact, they want to hide the information. In the beginning of the second half of the 19th century, the Smithsonian Institute was established. Not by me and you, the common people, by the richest people, the elites, who even today rule the world. So they established this, museum institution, which is today arguably one of the most important museums in the world. And the first task when they formed the teams was for them to destroy all the mounds in the US. Just the pyramids going from the north, from Wisconsin. Even today, there are pyramids in Wisconsin. All the way down to the south, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Ohio, Mississippi. All these, central and eastern and southern and northern states in the US, they have had hundreds of thousands of mounds. The state of Ohio, even today, they have 42,000 registered mounds. Some of them are tumulus-like. They are so huge, big structures. So they've been destroying those structures. And they had a task to bring all the artifacts to Smithsonian Institute, actually to their underground warehouses. And they were finding skeletons 13, 15 feet long, some of them humans, and many other artifacts. And those artifacts were never to be seen by the public. So, what is the purpose of the major museum institutions in our countries? Is it to put those objects for the public to see or to hide 99% of our history?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's amazing information too about the pyramids and Cahokia Mounds. I'm glad you asked those questions. You're actually giving me ideas right now for a follow-up documentary for that site. But
yeah, we basically talked about all of that in the documentary we did on it.
Right. But you just bring some interesting points to the table. And, I agree with everything you said, and I want to move on to another question I have. You wrote a book called Ancient History from Beyond the Veil, and the Akashic Records experiment bridges the gap between science and spirituality. So what did you actually learn from this experiment, the Akashic Records experiment, and what gaps did it fill in for you?
Yes. Nikola Tesla once said that the day when the science starts implementing spiritual science and spirituality, the science would develop 10 times quicker. And he was right, because we live in the world where we rely exclusively on our 5 physical senses. We can see, we can hear, we can taste, we can smell, we can touch. But our physical senses are so inferior. What we can see are only those 7 colors. The lowest frequency is red that we can see. And then we have orange, and then yellow, and green, and blue, and indigo, and violet. Of course, those 7 colors have been kidnapped today by the LGBTIQ movement and their flags, but this is scientific fact, 7 colors. And this is 0.7% of the frequencies in the universe. So we can see less than 1% of what's happening around us. What we can hear, 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, it is called sound. Everything above 20 kilohertz is ultrasound. We don't hear it. We can measure it. We don't hear 50 kilohertz. We don't hear megahertz. We don't hear gigahertz. We don't hear infrasound. So we hear almost nothing, less than 1%. So we create our physical aspect of our living based on very limited information. We are coming to the spirituality. I always like to define the term so we know exactly what we're talking about. When I went to the schools, decades ago, they were teaching me spirituality, this is religions. Well, not really. Religions is one thing. Faith is another one. But spirituality, for me, is the development of spiritual senses, and we have 30 of them, so we can sense the world beyond the physical reality. For example, our spiritual sense is that we can feel the energy. In other one, we can see colors of the energy. For example, our auric field or colors of our chakras. We can exchange thoughts. It is called telepathy. That's spiritual sense. We all have those abilities, but nobody developed them. We have a ability to move objects with the power of our mind. Telekinesis is a spiritual sense. We have ability to move through space and time. Teleportation. So these are spiritual senses. If we could develop them, and guess what? The pyramid energy amplifies those spiritual senses. We can develop them. Then we would realize, hey, we are actually here forever. We have something, not the physical body, which is for one use only, but our soul. Our soul is almost immortal. It lasts for billions of years. So we have a physical body, one use only, and together with physical body comes intellectual body, emotional body, energetical body. And then inside the physical body, there is a soul. Physical body is a protection for our soul. Soul is a protection for our spirit, which is divine light. So 1, 2, 3 entities. So this book, Akashic Records, talks about this second entity, talks about this world beyond the physical reality. The very term Akashic Records refer to the idea that there is a library in spiritual reality, and there is a way to access this library. And people who do that, they are called Akashic Record readers. Now, there are people who do that for the money. So since I lived in Houston for 25 years, I realized that there are, Akashic Record readers. I went to see one. I was listening what the person is doing. Basically, most of the people who come there ask about their private lives, ask about their previous lives, about reincarnations and so on. Looking to resolve some issues in this life. But then the thing with the readers is they give you information. So take it or leave it. For example, I heard a girl, she was laying there, the Akashic Record reader said, well, in the previous life, you were Cleopatra. And the girl went home happy. Wow, I was the most, beautiful girl in human history. I was Cleopatra. But you go to internet and you find out there is another reading in Canada, an entirely different person was Cleopatra also. And one in Singapore was Cleopatra. This is the problem with the Akashic Record readers. You get information, how do you verify that? Well, I'm a scientist. I know scientific methodology. So I said, why don't I try to establish scientific protocols? So instead to one person, let me talk not to 2 or 3, let me talk to 6 of them. So what I did, I made a PowerPoint presentation with 25 slides of mysterious archaeological sites around the world. And I had the same questions for all readers. Who, when, how, and why? Why? So I have slides of Machu Picchu in eastern Peru, pyramids in Mexico, Teotihuacan, in Egypt, in Bosnia, in China, in Mauritius, in different countries, megalithic sites, and so on. So only those 5 questions. Now, Akashic readers, they did not know each other. Important, so they cannot, talk about what I asked them. They did not know me. They did not know what I was going to ask them. None of them, for example, visited Bosnian pyramids in the past. So what I did to be truly objective, I recorded everything, and I had even other person write the book, Peggy Sue Skipper. Reason why, when you write, then you can bring some, personal, non-objective elements. And I talked to those persons. For example, I asked them about the Bosnian pyramids. Who built them? And then I'm getting the answer. When the pyramids were built, how they were built, what was their purpose? The same thing about Machu Picchu. When, how, who. Now, Machu Picchu, that was an interesting case. When it came to the question when, one reader said 800 years back. Of course, there's the era of the Incas. And Incas were there, but they were the 4th civilization. I know that. And the person said 2,000 years. Third person said 5,000, 12,000, 54,000, 400,000. Now, if I relay this information to, let's say, mainstream archaeologists, and they will say, well, this is a total nonsense. You have one question and 6 different answers. Well, wait a minute. You have sites, especially important sites, energetical sites, that have been used and reused and used again by different civilizations. So you have different cultural layers. So you have to know how to read those statements for Akashic record readers. And I realized that none of them was getting a big picture. They were getting parts. For example, when I asked them about the Bosnian pyramids, they all said the same thing. They were not of this planet. And then, when we were discussing what was the purpose, for the first time, and that was February of 2010, for the first time I heard the energy properties of pyramids. 4 of them told me there was an energy beam going through the top. Some of them are telling me energy beam going down and things like that. They are telling me about the healing properties. They are telling me about rejuvenation, detox. And until then, from 2005 to 2010, my main focus is to prove we have structures, we have concrete, we have orientation. And after that, I started bringing teams of physicists and engineers and medical doctors. And indeed, we have proven what they told us. Pyramids were energy machines. And that's the reason why it's so important to have this spiritual aspect, but the way I described it, in your research.
That's an amazing experiment. And I love that you did that. It's important. Not many people have done that. I have, being a host.
Nobody.
Yeah, specifically.
That's why this first experiment.
Right. What's interesting, though, is, being a host of this podcast, we interview a lot of healers and Akashic record readers, QHHT, hypnotherapists, and they offer us free sessions. And I started saying yes to everyone as an experiment because I wanted to see the same thing. Would all these people say the same thing? And sometimes, very rarely, it would line up, but most of the time I was getting different results from each one.
I wanted to ask you, did you have the same experience in the sense that you are the same person like 200 years back? Probably not. They would be telling you about your different lives, but are you going to have like at least one life matched by two Akashic record readers? Probably not. So we have to be careful. That's my point. We have to be careful. We have to apply common sense, and we have to try to get information from different sources.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I was just kind of explaining I was doing this very similar thing. I wasn't researching anything specifically. I just wanted to see what the results were. So going back to what was I going to ask you about? Oh yeah. So have you had any actual paranormal activity and weird, strange experiences while excavating and surveying the pyramids? Any encounters with ETs, off-world beings? I know it's a crazy question, but have you had experiences like that there?
When we were scanning the pyramid back in 2007 by Dr. Harry Oldfield, unfortunately late Harry Oldfield from UK, he developed a special camera which he called PIP camera. Today there is a new updated version. It's called the NEV, New Energy Vision Camera, with which you can scan invisible energy fields, invisible to our naked human eye. So he was scanning the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, and then we could see from the above there was a different thermal signature, which is like elliptoid, which was coming close to the top of the Sun Pyramid and disappearing inside. And after a while, after a couple of minutes, it was going back and flying out. Now, this was very interesting, because this was not something that we could observe. It doesn't mean if we cannot see that it does not exist, as I explained a few minutes ago. But that was one interesting case, and I was present at the time. Majority of metaphysical experiences, metaphysical behind the physics, behind our physical senses, have been happening in the tunnels. Since tunnels are so elaborate, very extensive, they go for a couple of miles, chambers, passageways, intersections, lakes, and so on. So it's a big place. And since it does have healing properties, a lot of people go there, they spend, hours and hours. So we are getting a lot of interesting information from them. A lot of them, when filming or taking photographs in the tunnels, we can see like light beings, energy beings. They are called orbs. Now, orbs can be of different colors. In our case, 99% of them are white. They can be different shapes, hexagonal, octagonal. In our case, they're always circular. And you can clearly see how they move, left, right, back, and front. Sometimes there is one, two, sometimes there are a river of orbs. So we know exactly it is not dust, it is not humidity, it is not camera. It's actual light beings, energy beings. They simply have different frequencies. This is the reason why we cannot see them. And so their movement is totally independent. And I would say the feeling of almost all of us is that they are rather supportive. They want to know what's going on, especially they are present in the new area where we are doing the clearing, putting the wooden support, and when we have some activities like bringing, guides with the groups in the tunnels. So it seems they like to know what is going on with our activities. There are also several different entities, I would call them. In the tunnels, people coming, bringing us different stories. Sometimes one or two, they are saying, oh, I saw this, white being, which is 18 feet and stuff like that. They're saying these are guardians. But if it comes from one or two persons, it's hard to accept it unless there are other people at different times telling us about the same phenomenon. But orbs and a couple of other, entities, yes, they are present there. And guess what? When I take my groups every December in Egypt, We can see them in the Red Pyramid. Most of them are in the Red Pyramid. And now they opened for the public the Bent Pyramid in Dakshur. You can see them there, a lot of them. So it seems that those, light beings are attracted by the very powerful energetical points. And pyramids, it amplifies the energy, so they like those energies.
Right. Or maybe they're just able to exist in those energies, as opposed to floating around. I don't know. It's all speculation, but yeah, I think there's no coincidence that they appear around the world near the pyramids. And one last question before we start wrapping this up. In your book, The World of the Maya, you said, "It is my theory that the Maya should be considered watchmakers of the cosmos." And I was wondering if you could elaborate on what you meant by that.
While living in Houston, I was so happy to have opportunity to fly to the Mayan world. From Houston to Mexico, hour and a half, to Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize. Sometimes I would rent a car, like in Mexico, for a month. I was going, visiting different cities and towns and villages, some of them open to the public, some of them still archaeological work, in progress. Some of them, they are completely, forgotten, covered by jungle and so on. So I've learned so much. And of course, I'm reading everything, people are writing about the Mayas in the last 200 years. For example, on one place I read that for themselves, the Mayan civilization claimed that planet Earth is their seventh mission. When they complete it, they're going to move on. In one place, it is called Bonampak. It is in Mexico. It's a national park, and the local Lacandon Indians live. So not frequently visited. The only place in 3 chambers where you could see the Mayan paintings, the murals. 3 chambers show 3 different situations in the Mayan life: the agriculture, the royalties, and fight with the neighboring village. And beautiful murals, by the way. Every Mayan, is painted differently, different colors, different clothing, and so on. But at the corner, the ceiling, there are beings. They look like a regular Maya, but they have certain divine properties. It is like somebody was watching them, somebody who brought the knowledge to them. And once you start realizing that these people, they have astronomy so developed, calendar, not 1, not 2, but 21. They were watching the movement, or they knew the movement of our solar system concept, of solar system with the planets, moving within the Milky Way, Unabku, as they call it. And they knew that the travel lasts almost 26,000 years. It took us 100 years with all the telescopes and lately the computers to figure out 25,920 years. The Mayan knew that much, much before us, thousands of years back. Then you go to one site in eastern Guatemala called Quirigua, very small site, but it has magnificent stelas, stone plates, with the carved dates and events they are describing. There is a date of 5 million days. Now, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of years. There are 2 more amazing dates. One is 4.5 billion years. Now, you would expect that one local community is writing about an event that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. I don't think 200 years. Because we think for ourselves that we are the only civilization who has an idea about geological times, millions, billions of years. Mayans having the date showing 4.5 billion years. What it can be? Well, my thinking was They are telling us that our planet is between 4 and 5 billion years. It seems that they knew when our planet was formed. And the other date, even more unbelievable, 13 billion years. What happened then? Well, our astronomers and physicists are telling us that our universe is between 12 and 15 billion years old. How did they know that? So it seems to me that if you speculate, if somebody wanted to have a different vibration of this planet, which was rather raw, so much violence, so many wars and stuff like that. We discussed that at the first question. If they wanted to kind of make it more harmonical, make it more in harmony with the solar system and the universe, then they could be called, the watchmakers or the watchmakers of the universe. So it seemed that it had something to do with the frequencies of this planet. Mm-hmm. And of course, the Mayans, they disappeared in the 10th century. Nobody knows how, where, what for. They seem to disappear. Maybe they were aware that the Spaniards were coming with the violence from the Europe and so on and so forth. So it's an amazing, amazing civilization.
Right. And you also mentioned that you believe that they were descendants from the aliens from the Pleiades by way of Atlantis.
Well, this is what the Wikipedia is getting out of the context from my book. I'm not saying that. This was one French explorer from the 19th century who claimed that. But when I think about it, in Bosnia, we have Bosnian pyramids. We have several of them. In Egypt, we have 3 major pyramids at the Giza Plateau. And there are researchers from 1990s, like Buval, first one. And then since nobody was listening to him, he brought Hancock in the game. So now Buval and Hancock, the second book, and then Hancock and Robert Schwab, the third book, and so on. So they claim that those 3 pyramids match 3 stars of Orion belt. Now we have the same layout of the pyramids in Teotihuacan. Sun, Moon, Quetzalcoatl. Same layouts of 3 pyramids in Spain, Palencia pyramids. In the case of Bosnia, 4 wall pyramids match layout of 4 stars of the 7 sisters of Pleiades. Pleiades. Now, the Pleiades are much more mentioned in oral traditions than the Orion Belt. Orion Belt is just recent thing. But the Pleiades, you found them in traditions of the Navajo Indians, Anasazi civilization, Pueblo Indians, Hopi Indians, Mayan, Aborigines, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, India, all of the Europe. And now the Bosnian pyramids match the layout of those stars. Very interesting. What is the message? So the Pleiades are very important everywhere. And the Mayans, did they have anything to do with that star constellation? I don't know.
Right.
Until we prove it differently, anything is possible.
Right. Well, I would say you probably answered questions more thoroughly than anyone we've ever interviewed. And I mean, you have such a thorough knowledge of all this stuff, and it's amazing that what you're able to just pull in the moment. And I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And we are so glad that you were able to join us today. And one last question. Is it easy for people to visit the Bosnian pyramids? And what do they have to do to go to that site?
The easiest thing in the world. You just fly to Sarajevo International Airport. If you're flying from European destinations, anywhere from Istanbul, or Germany, or Sweden, or Italy, there are direct flights. If you're flying from the US, you just have one connection. For example, a friend of mine just came from Houston, so Houston, Frankfurt, Sarajevo. Or you can fly through Zurich, or through Munich, or through, Istanbul, or, different cities. You come here from the capital city or the airport, the national airport there, to town of Visoko, 25 minutes. You take a cab, you're here. How do you make your reservation? You go to booking.com. That's the easiest way. There are different sites, but this one is like most common, and you find yourself whatever you want. There is a 5-star hotel, there is a 3-star hotel, there is a Franciscan monastery with a nice, comfortable bed, clean, especially. There's a lot of apartments. 250 people are renting the apartments, the bungalows, homes, and so on and so forth. Now, the sites. Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, Moon, Tumulus, tunnels. We have 6 tunnels to visit. And we have the most beautiful park in Europe. You see, 10 years ago, I spent all my US savings buying neglected, swampy, muddy land around the tunnels, which we transformed into this beautiful park, which has become the cultural oasis of Europe. So many people coming there. It has become oasis with the sports. We built a tennis stadium together with Novak Djokovic, the best tennis player ever. He just won Olympic gold. This is a place of spiritual peace, of serenity, of non-discrimination. This is a place of freedom. During the Corona times, we were open. Our park was open for everyone. There was a curfew. Old people could not go out. Kids could not go out. They were coming to our park, the place of freedom. During those times, masks, no masks, everybody was welcome. People were coughing. Obviously, they were having something, maybe corona if it was a virus. We let them go to the tunnels. That means no discrimination. Sometimes we have to be brave. Well, anyway, so this is a special place. People come here, they go back home, changed people. When is a good time to come? We open 365 days a year. We are open for Christmas Day, for religious holidays, for New Year's, national holidays. We are open every day of the year. We train our official guides. We have 36 of them. So we are very serious about the tourism. This is how we finance our archaeology and science and the park and different installations there. So we are building something really unique. People love the place when they come. They can come and they can volunteer with us. In the last 15 years, 4,000 volunteers from 64 countries. They come volunteer for 3 days, for 7 days, for 2 months. No problem.
Right.
More info, Bosnian Pyramids.ba, BA Bosnia. Bosnian Pyramids.ba. Of course, I have my Facebook under my name, Semir Osmanagić, or Bosnian Pyramids, my Instagram also. So there is a way, to contact us.
That's amazing. And so do you lead any tours personally yourself?
Personally, once a year, and that would be for the summer solstice. This year, June 16, June 23rd. Next year, the same thing, 1 full week. They come with me to different sites, different locations. They hear the full story about the archaeology, science, and energy, and spirituality, and healing. And they eat not GMO trash that we got imported from US or Western Europe. They eat organic, natural food. The local women organization, they prepare the food, and the seeds are actually there for generations, and the food is from their gardens. Juice. We don't, offer soda and other junk, that make us sick. What we offer are natural juices. So it's a complete experience.
Wow.
That's
I
amazing.
mean, I'm definitely going to look into that. I'm super interested. I've been wanting to go. We're friends with Jack Doubleday, and I know he volunteered for you for a while, and he's talked him up and offered. He wants to come with us too. So maybe we'll arrange something. But and to book the tour with you, that's on the same website.
Yeah, the same website. It will be for the next year. I don't know if we have it already. Probably not, but it will be on the website.
Okay,
that's
great.
June of next year. I used to take groups, to Sardinia, Nuragi, megalithic towers, to South Africa, together with Michael Tellinger, Swaziland, and different countries there. And used to take tours to look at this combination to Israel, Jordan, and Palestine. 2 week tours. Of course, not now. There are problems there. Prehistorical Turkey. But right now, I'm focused only to Bosnia and Bosnian pyramids. I love it the most, and I really thoroughly enjoy every time when people come here.
Right.
Of course, you can come anytime. Now, it's beginning of August. The first week of September, we're going to have a tour, and I will be heavily present there. It will be our 7th international scientific conference on Bosnian pyramids. I'm going to have 6 physicists, nuclear physicists, and engineers. Among them, Professor Konstantin Korotkov from the University of St. Petersburg. He's a genius. He measures energies of the sites. And some other physicists from Denmark and Croatia and Serbia and Bosnia. So we're going to, each one of them is coming with 5, 10, 15 different scientific instruments. So we're going to be doing measurements. One day we go on the top of the Sun Pyramid. First guy measures, second guy, third, fifth, sixth, seventh. Then we compare the measurements. And this is for the first time in the world of pyramids that something like that is offered to the public. So in the evenings, every one of them will have like lectures presenting the results. So it will be a really cool conference. And this is just in a month. People can come next month.
Wow. So that's incredible. And where can you buy tickets for that conference?
So it's on the site. You can see the travel package. It lasts for 7 or 8 days.
Okay.
So we offer the accommodation in 5-star hotel, transportation, organic meals, and meeting with all these experts.
Wow. Thank you so much. Aaron, did you have any last questions for him before we wrap it up?
No, not at all. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Thank you for all the work you're doing. It's amazing. And it's a blessing to humanity. So can't wait to meet you in person one day and visit the Bosnian pyramids, hopefully someday soon.
I agree. It is a blessing to humanity, and it's groundbreaking work. It's really next level stuff. So I appreciate that. And you have a personal website too. That's just your name, right? Can you?
Yes, samosmanagic.com, samosmanagic.com. And another one, it's very easy to remember. Books by drsam.com, books by drsam.com, where people can read for free, I think 7, 8 books. And you mentioned some of them. You mentioned the Akashic Record book, the Pyramid book is there, Energy Points on the Planet, and some others.
And the conversation with artificial intelligence was on
I'm
there.
not sure if that one is there. It's possible it's there. I think my webmaster.
It's there. I mean, I found it for free to read.
Okay, so it is there.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I found it somewhere else, but I found it.
No, it is there. All right, it has to be us. The reason why I don't believe in copyright. What does it mean copyright? What's my right? I mean, the knowledge, it's a common knowledge. We are there to share the information,
right?
Not to charge for the information.
Right. Or take ownership of it, right? And claim it as your intellectual property, as we know some people like to do. So thank you so much. This has been absolutely incredible. We truly appreciate you joining us today. And guys, go check out his website and his books and book a trip to Bosnia. I, for one, am really interested in exploring those tunnels and seeing what kind of benefits I received from it. I feel like I definitely need to put that on my bucket list. So thank you so much. And we really, like I said, we really appreciate this. And to everyone listening, we thank you as well. We can't do this without you. And until next time, have a great evening. Good night.
It was further agreed that the alien nation and the United States would exchange 16 personnel each to the other with the purpose of learning each of the other. The alien guests would remain on Earth and the human guests would travel to the alien point of origin for a specified period of time, then return.
Well, what shocked me was how they selected the astronauts. But they went out and found people within the military that were orphans and didn't have any family members and weren't married. Now that's a difficult task, even in 1960.
But this became quite a mainstay in early ufology of the 1990s, given that in addition to Request Anonymous telling this extraordinary story, there were several alleged DIA or Defense Intelligence Agency officials who were also coming in and saying, yeah, we have knowledge of this case too, and we can verify what Request Anonymous is talking about.
Could you estimate what his level of intellect was?
Smarter than me. He was smarter than me by a long range.